Watch this.
I think we're in a good place.
Well, better than we were a couple of months ago. We're continuing our look at what's wrong with Idaho's water rights with a take from the top. We also have several takes from several of you. No time to talk about them or answer them yesterday, so we're getting waist deep into them today.
When we shop local, we take that worry out of the game.
Want to get your hands on the fruits and veggies of our water's labor? An app is making farm to table that much easier in Idaho. 2 days ahead of schedule, the Surface Water Coalition turned in their draft groundwater management plan to the Department of Water Resources. While we don't know the down and dirty details, they tell us their plan will promote a healthy eastern Snake River Plain aquifer while protecting property rights, upholding the Constitution of Idaho, and guaranteeing an adequate water supply for future generations. Big tab. All those issues we've waded into in Wednesday's Water Rights Focus show. So this plan will be used in continuing those negotiations between surface water users and groundwater users to avoid future water curtailments. This arbitration has gotten the attention of Idaho's top leaders, with Governor Brad Little chipping in $10 million to get this new deal done and fix these recurring problems. Today, Joe Paris digs into, well, what that money might do and what's the progress on a water deal.
I think we're in a good place. I got asked yesterday about, are we there? And I said, never say never until the final handshake and signatures are done. It's not black and white, and I have to tell them, ask them, sometimes beg them that we're all in this together in agriculture, and that if we don't do the right thing, it's going to default to who we don't want it to default to, whether it's a U.S. Supreme Court like what happened in Texas with New Mexico and Colorado, or, you know, in other states where either Congress, the U.S. Supreme Court, or a federal court intervenes. And so that's my constant message to them.
What do you think the biggest, I guess, contention is right now? I mean, is it just it's a really complicated issue?
It is a very complicated issue, and it's embedded in our Constitution, and then there's a lot of laws, and then there's a lot of court cases that all entail that. But it's like so much what I do, it's all predicated on growth and the fact that there's more and more growth and efficiency.
When I talk to agriculture operations on both sides of the debate, one of the themes is there needs to be investment in making sure that the water system from a century ago is modernized, and that takes a lot of money. I understand that your office yesterday made a major announcement, millions of dollars. What's the announcement? How will it help?
It was $10 million more that had already been appropriated by the legislature. Basically, I asked the Water Board to spend it on what they think will be the most conducive project, but these are for recharge. When we first started talking about recharge 20 years ago, there were a lot of people that said, oh, that's voodoo, it doesn't work. We know it works, but we also know it works better in some places than it does in others. We're learning how to measure through technology the most efficient way to recharge, and we know recharge works. We know the cheapest place to store water is in that aquifer.
Do you think it's possible to strike a deal in the near future that would last for decades? Or do you think this is realistically something that naturally everyone's going to have to come back to the table every few years?
Yes and yes. What I asked them to do, the mitigation plan, means that they will have surety next year that they'll be able to plant their crops. Food processors will be surety that there'll be potatoes there, that there'll be malt barley there. But as we learn more about how the aquifer works, as we learn more about metering, as we learn more about the climate, then we'll continue to have to do that. But what we want to see is that turnaround.
And I've spoken this week with others who have a really good window into how the negotiations are going. And of course, we saw, as Brian highlighted here at the top of the show, that a plan has been submitted by the Surface Water Users Coalition. We also know that before October 1st, groundwater and surface water users have a deadline set by the governor to sit down and hash out a mitigation plan. It is encouraging from the people I've spoken with, but as you heard the governor say, a deal is not done until it's done.
And if it's not done, it could revert back to the 2016 agreement or 2015 agreement, which went into effect in 2016. And speaking to those involved in a legal aspect when it comes to these water rights, you don't want this to be settled in courts, because that's where they pick winners and losers, and they don't want that to happen.
Because there is a situation where the farmers can get together and they can come and say, all right, we'll take this, we'll give this, we'll take this, we'll give that. When it comes down to a court, it's pretty absolute, and you will have one party that'll feel like they got a very bad deal.
Right. All right. We'll keep tabs on that. Thank you very much, Joe. Okay, so trying to squeeze the history and current conditions of water in Idaho into a 22-minute news hole didn't leave a lot of time for comments or questions yesterday, which is why we're getting to them today. No, Idaho does not sell water to other states. And do we really think they put ping pong balls in the aquifer? Okay, let's move on to a few others. A few of them had to do with the homeowners association requirements to maintain lawns and yards. Getting rid of those might save some water, sure. And for that, we suggest you take it up with your HOA at the next meeting. But Lynn in Meridian had another neighborhood question. In fact, several of them that have to do with farmland converted to subdivisions. She says, like a lot of people, I have a water right that came with my suburban home in Meridian. She's part of the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District, and she wants to know what water rights she has. Where does the water right fit in priority and process, and if her water can be restricted or cost too much that she'd eventually have to move, or she couldn't pay. Okay, so all right, we're going to do our best, Linda, here to see if we can answer these. But let's see if we can take these in order. With a little help from the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District Superintendent. First, what are your water rights as a homeowner with property that used to be farmland?
So what's happening when it converts over to a subdivision, that they still receive that same water right. It just gets diced up into however many lots that property becomes. And now we take that and we establish pressurized irrigation systems to water their lawns, their gardens, and all the landscaping in the common areas and everything else.
And with the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District, the amount of water you have rights to is 5/8 of an inch per acre. You take that 5/8 of an inch per acre and divide it by how many lots are in your subdivision, and that's basically how much of a water right you have. And that kind of explains your status as well. Your homeowners association, if you have one, could represent you if an issue comes up instead of everybody trying to do it themselves. So you still have those rights. They're just a smaller slice of that big pie. As for whether your water could be restricted, sure it can, just like everyone else. If it's a dry year, the water runs out early, it runs out for everybody. Or you may be thinking, I'm not using as much water to keep my lawn green as a farmer would use to grow corn. There's got to be an excess of water, right? Where's the rest of it going? Well, remember that 5/8 of an inch per acre? That wasn't really enough to keep a farm flush with water either. So there really isn't any excess. The other side of that would be, then why not just use that water for other farms so they can increase their quantity? Well, that would lead to other problems, Greg says.
If we didn't continue to deliver water to the lawns, gardens, and everything else, they'd be pulling it from the ground. So we're saving billions of gallons of water from being pumped from our aquifer and still delivering the surface water.
Some of you may live in a neighborhood with water rights, but you may not be seeing the benefits of it, like Karen in Garden City. She says she pays $100 a year for irrigation water, to which she cannot access. Is she alone in this? Not at all. When the irrigation district began, the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District began back in 1904, Greg says there were private ditches running all over the place, delivering water in lateral irrigation ditches from the main canals. And according to Greg, you can likely blame that, the fact that they're not there anymore, on the me decade. Those people who didn't give two thoughts about the future you.
In the 70s, development, really boomed in the Boise area. And there was nothing requiring that developer to keep those ditches on those properties. So the sad fact is he would cut off not only his development, but he'd cut off somebody downstream.
Greg says in the late 80s, they did try to form some other irrigation districts to bring water back to those neighborhoods. And they did in a few, and it paid itself off eventually. But in order to do it, you have to have a certain number of neighbors agree to do it. And these days, there are a lot of rentals in some of those areas, he says, and those owners just aren't too keen on joining irrigation districts. Greg did tell us you can always give up your water right in this case if you're not having access to it. But he warns if you do, It's not easy to get back. And finally, we did get several comments about how we didn't address population or climate change in our water rights stories yesterday and how that has impacted the supply. We did, though. We just talked about how Idaho is one of the fastest growing states in the country. We just didn't get into the data, like how we've added more than 600,000 people since 2000. We also did touch on climate change and how year after year after year of drought isn't just an anomaly, it's now the new normal. We've talked about this before, too, earlier this summer, and how the hottest summers and some of the driest years on record have happened within the last 20 years. Just in the last 4 years, we've averaged 16 and a half days above 100 degrees. It used to be 10 not that long ago. And by the way, Gary, your question about ping pong balls in the aquifer, that's for another day, maybe. You ever heard of REKO rings? Well, in 2013, they started popping up in Finland. It's a concept that connects local farmers and producers to customers through Facebook groups. You join a group with local farmers, comment which items you'd like to purchase, and then you just go pick them up each week. The concept gained interest in other European countries and then eventually made it to Idaho during COVID, while farmers are trying to find ways to still get their products to people. Hipwell Ranch out in Oriana was one of the first to participate in REKO rings here in Idaho. REKO Treasure Valley Group now has dozens of producers to shop from, but they eventually outgrew Facebook and they launched their own app just a few months ago. Aspen Shumpert stopped by Hipwell Ranch and local pickup spots to see how it all works.
We are running from the time the sun comes up till the time the sun goes down.
The lifestyle of an Idaho farmer and one who does REKO rings, a farm-to-table food ordering app. In the mornings, Brecca and Mitch Hipwell take care of farm chores, moving cattle, changing water, but in the afternoon, they work to get local food in your hands.
It's been important to us to make sure that our product makes it from our door to your door the way that we want to see it happen. You have sustainability. You have food sources within reach, within grab at all times.
The REKO app facilitates that. Customers place an order, then pick it up from local producers at a set time.
It varies, but we pick up almost every week.
You might recognize some of the producers in the REKO Treasure Valley group from your local farmers markets.
There are people, our friends, our customers. They're amazing. We meet them every week with goods and smiles, and we catch up on their lives. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you.
They all set up in private parking lots across the valley for 15-minute pickup slots.
You have your Saturday options, and then you have your midweek options with REKO.
It's great. There's just a bunch of vendors, and you can look through each of them. I found out about it this morning and made an order this morning.
You can see the circle of farm to table by knowing where your food comes from. something the nonprofit Fair Idaho is helping REKO with by connecting Idaho producers with each other and the community.
You can do your weekly pickup at Walmart, or you can support your local farmer, the people you see as you drive around town. If you're purchasing from Walmart, you don't know where those foods were produced and you don't know where that money is going to go. It's likely going to go to the corporation. If you spend local, you keep your money local.
A ring Hipwell Ranch is proud to be a part of.
We can be out here producing great meats and we can be out here doing all these things, but if we don't have a community of people that we can connect with, then it's kind of all for naught.
Although the app started use here in Idaho, it's now being used for REKO rings in other states across the country. Currently, the REKO Treasure Valley group has pickups set up in Star, Middleton, and Nampa on Tuesdays, and then in Boise, Meridian, and Kuna on Wednesdays. Hipwell says there's a big ask for REKO in Mountain Home, so that could be the spot that you see them next. Brian.
Because you mentioned the frequency is like a farmer's market generally once a week. This happens more often.
Right.
Is there any other difference between this and that?
Yeah, there is, and that's a good question, one that I asked. A farmer's market, producers are estimating how much product they should bring to them.
Okay.
They're kind of playing a guessing game. With REKO, you're having set pickups, things that are already paid for. It's a 15-minute slot. It's quick. People are just there to get their groceries that they already know they want.
Okay.
So it's a little more organization in a pickup style.
Possibly less waste that way.
Yeah, and you're not, walking around the parking lots of these pickups. Because then that would be a farmer's market.
Sure.
You're not shopping around. You're just picking up.
Just showing up, getting your stuff, and getting out. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Aspen.
good thing that we have the Spirit of Boise for those balloons that can make the sky and the view a little bit more beautiful over the next few days, because the smoke that we're expecting, it's going to do the opposite. And unfortunately, we did see a big influx of wildfire smoke this afternoon, and several mountain spots also saw the same thing, even though they have been seeing high concentrations of smoke really consistently, because that's where the fires are burning right now. So this is a view from Stanley. You can see in the morning, you can see the blue sky very clearly, and then a wall of smoke. But as we move forward in time, you can see a lot more of that smoke getting even more dense, and now a much different view. You can't even make out the skyline in the distance. So unfortunately, we don't have official sensors in the Stanley area, but I would guess that that air quality is now in the hazardous zone, because even some of the areas that are a little downwind of that, like Garden Valley, are now in the hazardous air quality as well. Other spots in Idaho City are very unhealthy, and in the valley locations, we're also in the unhealthy, which is that red category. And you can see that the air quality is this area in gray, air quality alert, and that has extended now for portions of the Treasure Valley. So that's going to stay in place, because we'll continue to fluctuate between this unhealthy air quality and at times a little bit of improvement. But we are expecting a lot of that unhealthy air to be hanging around at times. So here's what that means for people who are especially sensitive. Maybe they have breathing issues, or with kids, that hanging out in the smoke can flare up those breathing issues. So you want to make sure you limit your time outside and avoid any especially strenuous activity. And also, when an air quality alert is in place, burning is also prohibited, just so you know. So as we look at the smoke for the next few days, just know, factor the smoke into your Labor Day plans, similar to what we're seeing for today, the concentrations today. And unfortunately, even more so for the mountain areas, we're expecting those concentrations to stay high, but the temperatures will be warm and will be staying on the dry side.
All right, with all that smoke and that smoke forecast out there, you're probably wondering, why is anybody wanting to do anything outside? Well, a lot of places, a lot of schools are not canceling tonight, or they are canceling, I should say. Boise schools canceled all junior high and high school competitions. They also said practices should be canceled or moved inside. West Ada did the same thing. Bora High School postponed the Bora versus Timberline game to tomorrow at 5:30. West Ada canceling those middle school, not high school, but middle school cross-country activities for today. And all outdoor activities like practices are going to move inside there. District says they'll decide on those high school games maybe shortly. It's still 5:20, so we'll see how that plays out. Well, still some time to decide whether or not that smoke is going to be a problem tonight or not. So stay tuned to the news at 6 and KTV.com. Well, they claim their coffee shop was kicked off campus for supporting cops. Now the owner of Big City Coffee is hoping $10 million might cover the damages. Latest on that lawsuit, and evacuation orders easing a bit in Stanley, going from go red to set yellow. Here's Morgan Romero with today's 411.
The Wapiti fire burning near Stanley is now more than 89,000 acres and not contained at all. State Highway 21 is still closed for firefighter safety. There's another community meeting tonight at 6 o'clock at the Stanley Community Building and on Facebook. Some good fire news. Highway 17 is now open to regular traffic. Just be careful, because there are still some fire operations in the area. Brian Koberger was back in court today to see if his murder trial will move to Boise or stay in Moscow. Koberger is expected to stand trial next summer for the murders of 4 University of Idaho students in November of 2022. His defense argues the jury pool in Latah County is already prejudiced against Koberger, in part because of overwhelming media attention. But prosecutors argue moving it would be inconvenient for the parties and the witnesses. And so far, the case has not become a media circus. We don't know when the judge will make a decision on the venue.
This firestorm increased pressure on the defendants and the BSU administration.
They did not tell Sarah Fenley to stop supporting the Thin Blue Line.
Today saw opening arguments in Big City Coffee's $10 million lawsuit against Boise State University administrators. The coffee shop's owner, Sarah Fenley, put up a Thin Blue Line sticker supporting law enforcement at her downtown Boise location in 2016. Then in 2020, a BSU student posted a picture of the emblem, saying not to support the coffee shop if they, quote, love your BIPOC peers. Fenley claims she was forced to close the BSU campus shop after the post caused a firestorm. But BSU's attorney says Big City Coffee voluntarily shut down its campus location 1 month after opening. More witnesses will testify during tomorrow's trial. Football is here, which means Bronco Roundup Game Day is back. Join Sports Director Jay Tust this Saturday at 9 a.m. to find out what you can expect for Boise State's matchup with Georgia Southern. Then at 1 o'clock on Saturday, you can catch our pregame coverage on YouTube and our website. Want more? Text BSU to 208-321-5614 to get a link to the Bronco Roundup Game Day guide sent directly to your phone. Want even more? Tomorrow, the 208 is getting the day off because Jay Tust is back with our Boise State preseason special, The Blueprint. Tune in from 4:30 to 5:30 tomorrow as Jay breaks down the big storylines heading into the Broncos football season and shows Bronco Nation the character of the team, especially head coach Spencer Danielson. And that's your 411 on the 208. I'm Morgan Romero.
All right, apparently there's still some unanswered questions or some misunderstanding when it comes to water rights. And if you're a homeowner in a subdivision that used to be a farm and you're still paying for water rights, why if you're not getting access to them? Mike has that question. Why am I paying the annual rights fee for water rights I don't receive from Nampa Meridian Irrigation District? Well, you can opt out of it. And again, it's there because in case they put pressurized irrigation in your subdivision, you can have access to it. You get rid of those water rights, they go to do that, it's gonna be tough to get those back. But there is a process to opt out of it if you want to. I feel like I have to address this comment from Greg from yesterday, asking about how we heard in the 60s and 70s that they put ping pong balls in the aquifer to see if it came out the other side. Think about that for a second. Think that's possible? See you tomorrow.